Greetings, everybody. Welcome to News from the Pews. I have a guest with me today. He might be an unfamiliar face to a lot of people. He's not really involved around here a whole lot. But Brian Fisher, how would you describe what you do here? What would you say you do here? That's from a movie.
You know, first, Father, I think I ought to talk about, I don't know if people understand the way into News from the Pews, the paparazzi that's outside, the people that are, I mean, it is quite an event, isn't it?
I know. Oh, yeah, it's an event.
And no one even realizes that's going on.
No, they don't. They don't. And they don't realize how stiff is the competition.
I'd knocked somebody down on the way in here.
We've been, 3 meetings together right here, right before this, and everybody wanted to be where you're sitting.
I mean, I've been begging to be on this for months.
You kind of have to win the lottery.
I mean, that's what I feel like
you
right
done
now.
won the lottery. It'd be nice if you won a different lottery, too.
What would you do with that?
Of course, you also won the lottery because you're married to Celeste Fisher.
Well, you're right, Father, I did.
So, but you could win the lottery for money, too, and donate it to the capital campaign, which is really what we're here to talk about. Isn't it, Brian?
We are here to talk about the capital
Let's
campaign.
Grow St. Joe has got to be the best name of a capital campaign you've ever heard in your life.
Yeah, I was in a meeting with the guy that came up with it. And there were several, listed, 30 or 40, and he's like, what do you think about?
There were 30 or 40, yeah.
Let's Grow St. Joe.
Yeah.
But it's good, though.
Let's Grow St. Joe.
Yeah.
Because that's what it's all about. This campaign, which we're about to talk about, is about growing not just the building and growing on our history and to the future, but it's really about growing the kingdom of the Lord here in Shelby County, which is really quite something to think about. I mean, it's not just about, I think people think a lot of stuff was like just about building buildings, but it's really about building souls.
It is.
Now, Brian, what would you say you do here?
Well, you know what I always tell you. And you
I love this line.
I serve at your pleasure, Father.
I love that line.
That's what I do. So, well, I'm the chair of the Finance Council.
Yes, you are.
So we do that. And then I do some buildings and grounds things. And I do whatever you ask. When people ask me that, I say, well, a long time ago, a priest here asked me to do something. And if you don't do it extremely poorly, then they'll ask you to do 2 things the next time. And it just kind of rolls from there. So
teach you that in seminary.
Is that how that works?
That's how it works.
That's how it works. So yeah, so buildings and grounds and finance, that's what most of my stuff is. That's kind of how I got involved. I think I ran when my daughter Clarice was in kindergarten here, and she's 22 now, so that's been a bit. I ran for school commission. And in those days you had to put a little bio down and they voted for you at Mass. And I don't know, maybe I ran unopposed, I don't know, but somehow I won. And so that's kind of how it started. And then I was on parish council, and then somehow I got to finance, and now we're here.
Were you the president of the student council when you were at St. Joe's School?
I don't know. I don't even think we had.
Gloria's here too.
Gloria's here too. Who usually doesn't like me.
This is how even dogs want on News from the Pews.
That's right. That's right.
Even non-humans.
I don't think we had a student council.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's been
a hot minute.
That's been a day or 2.
So you did go to school here from.
I did.
What, preschool? Did you go to preschool?
Kindergarten.
We
didn't have preschool.
5th, and Mrs. Livingston was your principal.
No.
She was your
6th grade teacher.
Wow.
Mrs. Livingston was my 6th grade teacher.
A News from the Views watcher, Mrs. Livingston.
Hello, Mrs. Livingston. I can do math today because of Mrs. Livingston.
She is the best.
She's very good.
She's wonderful.
Yeah.
And I just saw her last weekend. Brian is also the chair. He and Celeste are the chair of this. This, my friends, is the final result, what we are hoping for and praying for, and what we will be soon working for. See what you have. Guys, see if you can't zoom in here.
That's another view there.
Should I stop moving it, do you think? Can you zoom in there, Gay? Now, might I just note, this church right here which we're seeing the backside of, was built in 1908. I think it's important that we think about the history before we think about the future and the present reality. The history is that this building here was built in 1908. Father Kalin was the pastor here at that time. He is now buried in the cemetery at St. Joe. You can go visit him. He's right to the left if you're looking at the crucifix. He's right to the left. He was the pastor here for about 30 years, a long time. And when he started, this was the church here, which I never really believed, Brian, because everybody said this was the old church, but I thought, how could that be a church?
It sure was. There was a steeple and everything.
There was a steeple. And one time I saw this postcard from right after, I think there was a big flood in 1913. And this Broadway, which was not, much of a road then, but it was tons of water. And you could see this church, the brand new church at that time, but you could also see this in the picture, and there was a steeple right on the front.
There you go.
So this was the original church, now the rectory, and this was built in 1908. And if you think about how our parish was founded in 1868 as a daughter of St. Vincent Church on the other side of town, really it didn't take too long before they outgrew this and moved over here. And so that's quite something. Of course, this is just kind of like, is this the original school, Brian?
Yeah.
That is the original school.
Yeah, that's from there to there.
There to there, which was built in 1873. That's when the school started, and then as things, so this would have been the church, and there would have probably been a smaller structure at the time, but then eventually they built, but probably not too much longer, they built this old school. And then the new side of the school was built 1950.
1958, I think it says.
Something like that, yeah, 1958. So just kind of a neat thing. And
you know what? We ought to build something again. It's been a while.
It's been a while. It has been a hot minute.
It has been a hot minute.
If you think about it, 1958 was the last time something was built here. The building that we are now sitting in, if you can't tell, used to be...
We're right here.
We're right here, and in the final plan, this goes away. This is what was the rectory, and then this was the convent, and then they switched a few times, and this was the convent, and that was the rectory. Mm-hmm. I believe, if the stories I hear are true, the nuns, when they first got here, there was no convent. They lived in this classroom, which is the art room. They lived there.
That's probably why my wife taught there, because she's the closest thing I know to a nun. Wouldn't you think that's it?
I think she is.
She is.
Oh, she was. She was the art teacher for what, 4 years maybe?
That sounds about right.
Something like that.
And they ran her off.
Why is she slacking?
She said that her volunteer schedule for some other guy around here was getting kind of busy.
So anyway, I don't know who that guy is, but anyway. So then this is. So you're right, Brian. We have not built anything new since then. So that's that one. Brian, do you want to mention? Let's talk about. While we got this one up here, why don't we talk about the master plan here?
Okay. What we're going to do?
Yeah. Where should we start with this one? Let's start with this one.
You're
this
the boss.
One's better.
You're the boss.
That's
pretty nice.
That one's nice. What's phase one, Brian?
Okay. Well, so we have 3 goals on our capital campaign. The celebration goal, I always forget the names. So I call it the we have to, we need to, and it'd be really nice if we could.
Yes.
Okay, so that's how I remember. So the have to. That's the first part. We estimate that to cost around $4 million. So the first part, the biggest part most people are aware of, is the outside brick on the church is in need of replacement. So I don't know when, 50, 60, 70 years ago, there was a certain time where
1985.
Is that when they did
Father
it?
Armstrong, I think.
Is that he was here for 1 year?
1 year.
Maybe that's why he left.
He was the priest that authorized. Yeah, but they didn't know better.
They didn't. So a lot of churches had the outsides of the brick sandblasted. It made them look pretty, except it takes the glaze off of it and it won't hold the water out anymore. Which is why if you see inside the church where the walls are crumbling, especially on the way up the stairs where Father's trying to cover it up, that's why. So the only way to fix that is to re-brick the church, so to speak. So I think a lot of people think that when we say we're going to take the brick off the church, that we're going to take all this brick off and they're going to see like a wooden studded wall or something. And that's not true. Most of the church is built 3 or 4 bricks thick. Okay, so there is no wood studded wall in there. The plaster is actually right on the brick. So we'll take the outside layer of the brick off, and we will re-brick the church.
And I think I've heard some people say, why do we want a different color brick? That's not why we're doing it. We're doing it because the bricks have been deteriorating for 40, 50 years. And how many masons did we have out here in the archdiocese and lots of different people, and they all said, if you what'd they say about tuck point? If you tuck pointed it, it might be okay for a little bit, but eventually it will fall. And you could say that, Mike.
Well, no, but it was going to cost $700,000 or $800,000 to tuck point the church, and it doesn't fix all of the problem. So, we go to parishioners and say, hey, could you make a contribution and we'll do this, and then the walls are still going to be leaking. It would fix a significant amount of it, but you can't fix it for future generations, for the next 100 years, unless you replace the brick. And it's unfortunate that it happened, but we're not the only church that it happened to.
No,
they just didn't understand that, I guess. I'm not exactly sure why, but we're not the only one. And so that's the first part.
And
because
that's a lot of bricks.
You can't, oh, it's unbelievable. You can't fix anything inside unless you fix the outside. So we'll also redo the steps. And so people say, well, why would you do it like that? That's what they actually looked like originally. And if you don't, if you haven't really looked up at the bricks, if you go around where the porch is now, not porch, stairs, if you go, you'll see the fronts of the bricks have actually popped off.
And if you kick them even lightly, they fall down.
Yes. So that's number one. And then number two of is the inside of the church. So paint, carpet, fix the walls. The carpet, we think. I think I was in high school when they put that in. So that was
that was 60 years ago? No, I'm kidding.
1990. I was a freshman. Something like that. So the carpet's been there a while. I would guess that not very many of us have carpet in our house that's, what is that, 33 years old? And
boy, you can see by looking at it.
Yeah. Well, somebody's always swinging incense around, burning holes in it.
No, I don't know who that is. Anyway.
All right, anyway. So, and then paint. We need to paint the inside. It redoes the entrances just a bit. So the first stage is to fix the outside and the inside of our church. And to your point, hey, are we just building stuff? Well, it's about driving the mission, right?
That's right. Exactly right.
It's not about driving the facilities. It's not about building a big fancy church. It's about whoever did build that.
Yes.
Those people, they built it for us to sit in it. And now we've got to build it for the next generation to sit in.
When I climb up here, which I do about once a week, but I always think about who were the guys up here in the 1900s at the turn of the century laying. I always look at that brick and I say, I wonder what person laid that brick. What was their story? And it's to think about what they were able to do. And the sacrifices that people made in order to give such a beautiful edifice to the Lord, it's astounding.
It's not something that everybody can get into because it's hard to get into it. But if you go inside the bell tower, which we should film something from in there one time.
There have been many requests for News from the Pews live
inside the bell tower.
From the inside the towers.
It's an amazing structure.
It really is. It's huge. You would never think it's as big as it is when you're up there. You're like, oh my gosh, how big does this ladder go? How tall is it?
It's really cool. That's actually what got a lot of this started. Was I'm probably hijacking the conversation, aren't I?
No, please.
I'm hijacking News from the Pews. News from the bell towers.
You can't have it back after this episode.
All right. But when we started all this in the beginning, there was this sentiment of, how are we going to do it? How are we going to pay for it? How are we going to fix it? It's too overwhelming. And it can be, and to some degree it is. But the architect that we use, we walked into the church, and as soon as he got in there, and this guy does faith-based work. It's all he does is works on churches. So it's not like he's been looking at an office building. I mean,
right.
He's, Mike, he's Catholic. He does Catholic churches. They've done cathedrals. And as soon as he walks in, he says, man, you have a beautiful church. And so we just start talking about it. And what always was astounding to me is what you said. Like in 1908, I mean, there's no backhoe, dump truck, power tools. I don't know. They rode to work on a horse or walked.
Yeah.
And when you go in there, from floor to ceiling, I've never measured it, but I bet it's 50 feet at least. And you're like, and I remember sitting there talking about that, and I told him, I said, if they could do that and rode to work on a horse, we have to be able to maintain it. There has to be a way we can do that. And so that's kind of how it got started.
It's really about, first of all, point number one, nothing is too big for God. They could have gone half as high.
Absolutely.
But they wanted to go higher. And nothing's too big for God. Number two is this is what has been given to us by our ancestors. And I think this is really the point of the campaign. And really any capital campaign. This is what has been given to us. It's like that place in Scripture where it says, God says, I'm going to give you fields that you did not plant. I'm going to give you buildings that you did not build. Yep. I'm going to give you this that you did not do. And we are stewards of it now. And that's what this is about, is how to be good stewards and help not just take care of what it is, but to even make it even better, and to preserve it for well into the future.
Yep.
Amen. So stage one is the insides then as well, which, by the way, I remember Loretta Eckstein, she once said, I told those priests, she said, carpet is not for the church, it is for your living room. Yep. And they didn't listen to me.
Yep.
So anyway, we would have like a nice marble sanctuary, which we should have. And it's the whole thing's going to be
a much more noble product.
Very noble product. Yeah. What else in stage one? Stage one is also site work.
Site work, yes. So what's site work? Well, that's all the stuff under the ground and the parking lot. So for those of you that park over here in this area where you're not sure where to park and it's triple and double parked, we won't be able to do that anymore. So I know that'll be exciting.
That will be nice.
It will be nice. It's hard to know what to do over there.
Fewer fender benders and everything.
And dirty looks on the way out of church.
Yes.
You think?
Yes, there probably will.
I might even be one of them.
You know how many... Well, I won't mention who nearly bumped into another car last Sunday. Might be a relation to yours. Anyways, folks, this adds 48 parking places.
It does?
In the whole grand scheme of things.
So we can come in from Broadway too.
Yeah, and talk about this, Brian, how I wish I had my red laser. This road here, that's Hendricks, and right now it goes right like this, but here it will go that way.
Here, let's show this one.
Oh, good plan.
Turn up like that. There, we can still see you.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, so Hendricks Street goes through here. So our campus would expand. We still keep green space.
That's a good view.
And then we have access off of Broadway, off of Pike, off of over there on Noble.
Yeah.
And so it would add now we're skipping ahead steps, but yeah, with site work, most of it is included in the first step too. So you're going to get new inside church, new outside church, and new parking spots and site work.
That's awesome. That's phenomenal. That's step one, which is celebration goal. The next goal is the challenge goal.
Challenge goal.
And the challenge goal has two primary things. How about we go back to which one tells that story? Oh, here, there she is right here.
Okay.
There she is right here.
All right. So again, mission driven. That's how we're. So when Father said, you say, what's the challenge and then what? Celebration.
It was celebration then challenge.
Then challenge.
Last one is victory.
Oh, that's right. All right. So the second one is kind of an additional. Well, the first stage is about 4 or 5 million. The second stage is 3 million. So it gets us to about 8 million, and that has two features. One is the Adoration Chapel, which is right here. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that will enable us. It's I think it's like 15 to 20 people that can fit in the chapel, and it would be right here on the back side of the church, and it would also get us a brand new elevator to get into the church.
Father. Yes, it would.
Instead of the one we have that just doesn't work as well as it should.
It does not.
So it would. This would be an accessible entrance. And then there would be a I'm going to call it a real elevator instead of what we have, a real elevator to get us into the church, and you would enter where the confessional is now.
That's right. It would be so beautiful. And then this part here, by the way, that you're seeing would be step 3, but more on that in a second. Mm-hmm. The other one be the Parish Life Center.
Parish Life Center. That's pretty exciting, isn't it?
That really
What do you think we'd do in there, Father?
Well, I can think of a lot of things that could happen in a Parish Life Center.
Okay.
It could be a center of parish life. Aside from, of course, really the ultimate center is right here. But, boy, would it be nice to have a new place.
Oh,
to have sporting events, retreats, fiestas, dinners, lunches, socials. What am I forgetting? Piñatas.
Can we have that too?
Oh,
Yeah.
donuts, coffee. You never know. I mean, really, a Parish Life Center is quite beautiful, but youth group, all sorts of things can happen in that Parish Life Center. And would you say, Brian, that our current gymnasium is state of the art?
No.
Plays could happen in there too, by the way.
They could.
Yep, but anyway.
They could.
Would you say our current gym is state of the art?
No, and that was part of the consideration is, hey, this drives the ministry for the church, and then, one of our biggest ministries, if not our biggest, is the school. And those are the future parishioners, the future souls, right? And our gym is outdated and inadequate, quite frankly. That you could say, well, I mean, it's as nice as it can be for what it is, right? It's cleaned up, it's painted, it's nice, but it is our window to the community. And when we were not allowed to have games there for a number of years because the other schools didn't want to have games there because it is small and it's hard to get into, right? And they've been gracious enough to let us have home games again, but the way you have to walk in, there's nowhere for parents to sit except right up on the stage or essentially on the court. That doesn't work, and we want to grow our school. And that's part of doing that. It shows that this gives us a chance to grow the school more than we have, because when your window is when people walk in and they're like, well, this looks like it was built in, not whenever it was, in 1958, and they can't sit there. Even the play, when you have the play, it's pretty crowded in there.
Yeah.
But for athletic events, it is outdated. And as we have grown more parishioners, I think, it'll be like a lot of things that when you get it, we'll be like, how did we ever get by without this thing?
That's precisely it, Brian.
What do you want now?
Where's this one? Here, look at, just everybody think of this for a quick second. Okay, can you zoom in on this here? Up here. Maybe
That's a good thought, Father.
Think about this. We have this green space now, which is kind of wild for me to think about. I've been here for 6 years. In that amount of time, now when I got here, these houses were already gone. But there was a house here, 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 here.
Yep.
And those are all gone, and they're all, well, now I guess they're done. These are green space now. And you think about, some people say, well, gosh, for 150 years we didn't have green space. But now we get to give the next generation something better.
Works pretty good, doesn't it?
It's beautiful. And think of all the things that we use that for. And similarly here, some people say, well, that we've been fine in the gym for as long as it's been, but let's give the next generation something a little nicer. And that could enable a lot more.
Well, you're always better at coming up with our mission and how we do that kind of stuff, and how to say it. But that new gymnasium or that new Parish Life Center is no more progressive than the one that we have now was in 1958.
That's a good way to think about it.
And everything.
That's a great way to think about it.
Everything that the parish has built here
Yeah.
has always been way above adequate. It is all way above adequate. It has always been, we are going to show, our faith, and we're going to show honor to God by doing something that's incredible. And that's why we need to do that as well. The green space was actually an accident to some degree because we were going to expand the parking lot, and then when we didn't do the capital campaign at the time, somebody said, well, what are we going to do? Should we just gravel it? And the city's like, we really don't want you to do that. And so we thought, well, we'll just sow grass out there and we'll mow it, and at least we can look at it. And then after we did it, everybody's like, well, hey,
it's beautiful.
that looks pretty good.
What it has done.
So it's kind of an accident. Matthias did that.
Yeah, what it has done is just out of this world. And
so that's phase 2, Father.
That's phase 2.
Parish, or what do we say, chapel and Parish Life Center.
Parish Life Center. Let's go real quick, Brian.
Okay.
Stage 3.
Let's
talk about it.
Okay, so that is that would be this area.
Yeah. This grand entryway. This offices, which are combined school and parish. I believe this is my office right here, and then that would be...
That's the one with the lap pool and the...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's got a basement.
It's really nice. You guys should see. It's huge. His office is like from here to down here, and then we put everybody else right down. That's not true.
That'd be a hoot, wouldn't it? And this nice gathering center here, and so that'd be that's the victory goal.
Yeah.
The victory goal.
So we have to, we need to, Sure would be nice if we
Sure
could.
would be nice too.
Victory. So, and it would help a lot to have parish and school office together, don't you think? You're here every day,
It
right?
would be phenomenal not to have to cross the parking lot in rain.
Yeah.
And not to have to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
And not the stairs that you have to go up into the sacristy. That'll all be inside.
That's right.
That'd be pretty nice, wouldn't
That's right. Brian, let's talk about where do we go from now? It's October 1st is the kickoff event
it? I heard that.
of the capital
Are
campaign.
you going to go?
I might be busy. No, I'm not. Of course I'm going. I wouldn't miss it for the world, nor should you, nor should any parishioner.
I would agree.
What do we mean by kickoff, Brian? It's going to be after the 10 o'clock Mass.
Uh-huh.
And
So people are going to be just fresh off listening to an exhilarating homily, I
is
would
the
guess.
deacon preaching that week?
Is he? And they're going to go downstairs.
Yes, donuts.
Will there be donuts there?
Oh, it'll be.
Okay, so
Is
donuts.
it going to be the cafeteria or in the gym?
Cafeteria, I believe.
Okay,
Cafeteria, donuts, juice, coffee, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. And then Michael Egan, who is our architect, who some of you have seen present that plan, I think twice now.
Yeah.
He's coming back, third time's a charm. So we realize that for some of us, we've been seeing this once a week for, 10 years, but some people haven't seen it. They need kind of a, hey, what are we doing again?
Yeah,
What's
a
going
little
on?
reminder.
What are we doing?
Yeah.
So there'll be a quick kind of Cliff Notes version of what we're doing. I would assume we can take questions, and then Father's going to tell you why he thinks it's important to give to this campaign, and then we're going to kick it off. And we've hired the Steyer Group
Yes, good to mention them.
to help us.
They are
They're
outstanding.
managing the campaign. They've been fabulous.
Yes, they have.
What else are we going to do that day?
I think we're going to just, it'll be an opportunity for people to get a card. I think they'll get a card that day, but they'll also be mailed to all the parishes as well. But it'll be an opportunity to begin that and to hear a little bit about how to pray about what will my gift be.
So everybody gets a case statement, right?
Yes.
Which is a nice word for big fancy brochure that shows everything we're going to do.
That we just discussed in very small, nice pictures and shorter words.
Yeah. So everybody in the parish gets one of those, and you'll get a letter and a pledge card, right?
That's right.
And it'll have an amount that is, what's the word they use? That you are invited to discern.
Yes.
Is that right?
That's right. That's
So
right.
has an amount of, hey, we'd like for you to think about giving this amount to the campaign.
Three-year
Pledge. So let's say that it said to you, it might say, hey, we'd like for you to consider giving $1,000 a year for 3 years for a total gift of $3,000. And then you will fill your pledge card out. It's not a demand. It's an invitation. I think is the right word, right?
I agree.
So we certainly would like for everyone to take part. Quite frankly, because it's expensive and it's going to take all of us to get it done.
It will.
And that'll start on October, and then we'll be following up October, November, and we hope to wrap it up kind of before Christmas-ish.
Yeah.
Right?
That's right. Does that mean the whole thing will be built by then?
I would guess so.
Let's move
If
it.
not by
Let's go.
Easter. Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no.
Because we have to wait until. My understanding is that it's broken up into the three different pledges. You can correct me if I'm wrong. The three different stages.
No one will know if I correct you and I'm wrong. They won't even know. They won't even. They'll just be like,
So let's say the first stage is $5 million, which I think it is.
Okay.
$5 million for the interior, for the exterior, the interior, and the site work.
Yep.
Okay. So we have to have half that money in the bank and the other half pledged before we could do those things. Is that your understanding? But it's kind of by stage.
kind of, yeah. So
It's not like the whole 12 million
yeah, because so like let's say
before we do anything.
yeah, because if you give a 3-year pledge, we don't have to wait until the end of the 3 years before we start.
That's right.
Right. So if we have if we decide, hey, here's what we're going to do, and we have half the money in the bank and the other half is pledged, then the archdiocese will loan you the second half, and then when your pledges come in, you can use that to pay off. So you kind of helps speed you up a little bit. But if anybody thinks, well, we're going to get started next year, probably not, because we're going to need those first pledges and maybe even those second pledges to get here before we have enough to kind of get started.
I would like to propose something here, Brian.
All right.
I think a lot of times we should always have that question, what will our legacy be? And what will my legacy be? And it's really not about building buildings. Our legacy, if this all comes together, and not just our legacy, but our legacy, all of us together, will be the future souls, or the young souls, the souls that will be coming, and in future generations. And I think that's a pretty good legacy. What do you think?
I don't know what's more important.
Nothing.
No, we have an important job. I think a lot about when they did it the first time. I'm sure that in 1908, money would have been pretty tight. I'm not going to speak to people's individual situations, but man, money would have been pretty tight, and it would have been very challenging. Now, what they would have had on their side is probably, when you say society is the producer telling us something?
She's leaving notes, but I can't read them. Sometimes the producer has the thought.
Why don't we have those?
Something
You
about
would think news
children
from the
or
pews.
grandchildren.
Oh,
Children
yeah.
and grandchildren? That's right.
You would think news from the pews would have like those earpieces that they have, like on the news. Put that should be in
that should be in the stage one.
stage one. Okay. So, and production equipment for news from the pews before the Parish Life Center. But we have a really important job because, right, like we have all these pressures from society making everything more secular all the time.
Yes.
Right? And it doesn't matter if you go to Mass, and it doesn't matter if you send your kid to Catholic school, and it doesn't matter if you read the Bible, and it doesn't matter, but it does matter.
It does.
And we have to give those people a home because they're all those kids are going to fight an uphill battle their whole life against society.
Yeah.
Of where in 1908, probably a little more common that you would have attended Mass or church.
Yeah.
And I think that's important for us to realize the job that is in front of us.
Yes. I was reading a book, Deciding to be Christian, and the whole premise is that, 50, 60, 80 years ago, it was cultural to be Catholic.
Yep.
Or if your family's Christian. But now, you have to decide it. And to your point, we need to have a home, a good home that makes that decision, this is home. I decide to be here. This is my church. This is my family. This is where I receive Jesus, where he receives me. This is where I want to be. And better, it's like the scripture says, we get to have a part in building this place. What the scripture says, better is one day in your courts than thousands elsewhere. And we want to make sure that these courts are here for as long as we can imagine.
Tell you
Amen.
what, you're pretty good at this.
So are you, Brian?
You're getting the hang of this priest thing. I tell you what.
Gosh,
you really are. You're really getting the hang of it.
You were so good on this episode, Brian, that I might invite you back one time.
Is that right? Well, I tell
know.
you what, I'm looking forward to it. I'll say that.
It is going to be a journey. It's going to be an awesome journey, and just a happy. This is just kind of a video to prime the pump, so to speak, to get you ready for what you'll be hearing more about in the next couple of weeks, and what you've already been reading a little bit about and hearing about for recently, but even starting several years ago.
What should people do if they have questions, Father? What should they do if they have questions right now?
I think
because there's millions of people watching right now.
There are, and
well, maybe not right now,
there may be people watching from afar, and they would like to make a donation, but they're not even on our books.
That's okay. We don't. That's okay.
We would take it. But no, if you have questions, I would suggest you contact Brian Fisher.
Father Mike. So we do have frequently asked questions.
Yes, we do. And it's going to be in the bulletin this weekend. But also, what was I going to say? Oh, the mailbag. The News from the Pews mailbag, which is so heavy I couldn't even carry it.
It looks like that movie. Remember the movie with Santa Claus, and they have to prove Santa Claus is real?
That's it.
What is that movie, Producer Gay?
Santa
Is
Claus?
that Miracle on? That Santa? I thought it was Miracle on 30.
The Miracle on 34th Street.
That's what our mailroom looks like. That many mail from News from the Pews.
That's how big it is. Oh, like at the very end of the thing,
even they bring them all in.
Where he's in the courtroom, and then all the that's the News from the Pews mailbag.
That's what it looks like.
So you are free to add to the pile.
And if you do have questions for me, I'll be happy to answer any questions you have, and I'm sure Father would too.
Absolutely.
If we don't know, we'll make up an answer.
Brian, I appreciate all you do.
I appreciate all you do,
truly
Father.
I truly do.
We could not do this without you here. Could not.
Or you.
Well, I
God
don't know.
is good.
You could do it without me, but I don't know if we could do it without you.
Blessings to everybody. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time on News from the Pews.
See you.